Well, I just got on trail here. Flew into Boise earlier this morning, rented a car, drove out here, and I just parked at Pettit Lake, which is one of the main parking areas for the Alice and Toxaway Lakes area, which is pretty popular normally, but in a couple of days we've got the total solar eclipse happening here, and we're gonna be right at the path of totality here in the Sawtooth, so it's even extra packed this weekend. Well, this is Alice Lake. Now I'm looking for a place to camp. Brought my hammock for this trip. Weather looked good last night, so I didn't bother setting up the tarp. Nice and easy. First view of Twin Lakes. Wow, that is just awesome. So that peak straight ahead of me is Snowy Side Peak. The trail actually drops down to the right here, down to Toxaway Lake, but I'm going to keep going up that ridge straight ahead of me, up over to the left and over a ridge behind that, and drop down to Lake 9167 on the other side. This climb's a lot tougher with all the extra pack weight. 9 days of food, plus fishing gear, plus all the cooking stuff to cook the fish, plus extra camera gear for the total solar eclipse, multiple cameras and tripods and things. I think my pack weight's like low 50s right now. Well, I'm on top of the ridgeline now, separating Twin Lakes from Lake 9167. It's all completely off trail. Doesn't look like it gets a whole lot of use. And at 9,900 feet, this is actually the highest point I'll reach on my whole hike. So the route down is really steep, it's really loose, but it's actually pretty manageable. It's kind of like the kind of talus that you can just that slides and you can kind of go with it. You just dig your heels in and just kind of go with the flow. It's not the kind that where you're scared rocks are going to tumble down on your head, that kind of steep. And there is a big difference. This is Lake 9050, and so far I haven't seen any trails in this area. I really didn't expect to, though. I didn't see any on the map, so not surprised. So this tall peak to the right side of the screen here is Snowy Side Peak. I'm going to drop down into this valley below. There's a chain of lakes down there, Heart Lake and so on, which I'll probably end up camping at tonight, so that's where I'm headed. Well, this is the first of 5 lakes I'm going to pass in this chain as I head downhill here on my way to Heart Lake. The first 3 I'm going to pass don't have any kind of name or even elevation printed on the map. Normally they at least have an elevation or something just so you can refer to it, like Lake 9357 or whatever. Wow, these lakes are just amazing. And just to think that they're completely unnamed lakes that are off trail and no one visits is pretty cool. There's really no use trail or anything. I can't see any signs of people camped here, people walking through here. Pretty cool. Well, this is Heart Lake where I'm camping for the night. I just figured I'd come down here and do a little fishing. I actually caught one 11-inch cutthroat trout, and I had a really nice, probably 15-inch plus fish on the line, and I lost him as I got to shore. Well, it's morning, day 3. Last night was a cold one. It was about 37 in the tent when I woke up this morning. Quite a bit colder than the previous night over at Alice Lake, where it was, I don't know, in the low 50s or so. And they were both at the same elevation, roughly. So now I'm headed over this unnamed pass just to the east of Glenn's Peak, where I'll drop down into 10 Lake Basin. Wow, look at that reflection. Well, this is kind of an interesting area. I really get the impression that very few people pass through here. It's just kind of out of the way. Well, I'm on the top of this unnamed pass. If I had to give it a name, I would call it 10 Lake Pass, because 10 Lake Basin is down below, or Glenn's Pass because Glenn's Peak is here to the east. So far, no signs of human use in this area. No trails, no campsites, just deer prints. So now I'm working my way over to Vernon Lake and Edna Lake, and the route's been a lot more challenging than I anticipated. There's a lot of ledges and things that just, aren't going to show up on the topo map. So yeah, it's just slower going than I thought, but hey, isn't that how it goes in the mountains? This here's Vernon Lake. She's a beaut. Wow, this is really nice. This is Etna Lake. I'm on an actual trail now. I have been for the last mile or two. I'm kind of on like this, I don't know, this like main highway, main artery that goes north-south within the Sawtooths. Well, this is Hidden Lake. I've seen tons of people camping here, so I don't really know how hidden it is anymore. I mean, it doesn't seem to be too much of a secret. In a few days, I'll be returning to this spot when I come down the valley on the left where this stream is coming from as I complete my figure-8 style loop that I'm doing. But for now, I'll go up, I guess you could call it Cramer Pass. It's going to take me over to Cramer Lakes. The trail's pretty solid in this area. It's pretty heavily trafficked. I mean, it's popular, but you can see why. It's pretty beautiful. This is the pass up over the Cramer Divide. Very, very nice views. So I'm at 9,400 feet right now on the top of this pass, and I'm going to drop down to 7,400 feet over the next 7.5 miles to cross Redfish Lake Creek, and that's the lowest point I'll reach on the entire this entire route. At no other point will I go below 8,200 feet other than the hike in and out of the trailhead. So for me, creating this route was one of my goals was just to try and make it as much of a high route as I could, but in this area there just seemed to be no way around dropping down this low. This whole area above Cramer Lakes is just awesome. I haven't even gotten down to the upper Cramer Lake yet. It's just incredible. I mean, I wouldn't mind just hanging out and camping here if I didn't have to cover more miles. This is upper Cramer Lake. I haven't really seen a lot of places to camp up here, so I'm going to keep heading downhill. This is middle Cramer Lake. You can see that nice waterfall on the other side. That's the lake's inlet. And finally, this is lower Cramer Lake. So far, I still haven't seen an available campsite, so I'm going to keep heading down until I find something. Well, now I'm down on the outlet side of lower Cramer Lake, and there's one other guy camped over here, but being that I'm in a hammock, I don't really need an actual, pre-made campsite. I'm just looking for 2 trees, so found a spot that's going to work, and pretty nice view. Pretty nice view, actually. Everybody else went up to the upper lakes, which I probably would have done too, but man, you just can't go wrong with this view either way. Well, it's morning day 4. It's August 21st. It's the day of the eclipse. So I'm on my way now to Barren Pass, and I'm trying to get up there about 10:30 a.m. to get set up and get my cameras and everything ready for the eclipse. I've got about 9 miles to cover and an 1,800 foot climb. Got my work cut out for me. I really got to hustle here. Man, the sky looks really weird in this area. It's just got this like foggy, hazy kind of, I don't know, like mystical look that's just really setting the mood for this eclipse. I think it's going to be really cool. Well, I'm all set up on Barren Pass here. Those are Barren Lakes below, and here comes the eclipse.
Oh my God! Look at it. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Oh, look at how far it's getting. Whoa.
360.
I love it. Oh, you can see it. Whoa.
So for my spot here on Barren Pass, I figured it out. I'm about 7 miles from the very center of the path of totality. So from this position, we experienced 2 full minutes of totality.
Coming back. Glasses on, folks.
Wow, the eclipse was just incredible. I mean, it was just so much more of a profound experience than I was anticipating. I mean, nothing can really prepare you for it. I just kind of thought, you know, hey, look, everything's going to go dark for 2 minutes, but it's so much more than that. You really got to see it and experience it to believe it. So now I'm going down the switchbacks that descend down to Barren Lakes. It's supposed to be a pretty popular area with all the people here for the eclipse. I imagine there's going to be quite a few people down there if it's anything like it was at Cramer Lakes yesterday. This is Upper Barren Lake. Man, just look at the color. Beautiful. Well, this is Barren Lake, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit more miles today. It's still pretty early, but it's so damn beautiful. I think I'm just going to set up camp here and just enjoy this amazing spot. Well, I fished Barren Lake earlier. I didn't have any luck. I didn't see any fish, didn't have any bites. That steep bowl on the upper right is where I'm headed tomorrow. Well, it's morning day 5, and I'm working my way around Barren Lake again, and man, this has got to be one of the top reflections I think I've ever seen. Now I'm back to Upper Barren Lake, and I have to work my way around the west side. There's no trail or anything. So what I'm trying to do now is work my way up over this ridge, get to Warponnet Lake. And before I left home, I plotted out a route that looked doable on CalTopo, and now I'm trying to follow that route. So we'll see what happens. getting steeper now and everything's quite a bit looser and just slides under your feet. So I'm hiking along the base of these like 200-foot cliffs, and it's obstructed my GPS signal. It's kind of going haywire, but I mean, I know where I'm at. It's just, but it really hasn't happened to me that often. Wow, this is definitely steeper than I thought. Alright, well that looks like my exit point out of this basin and at least up onto the top of the ridge. That's Alpine Lake down there, where I came from yesterday, before I got to Barren Lakes. Wow. I wasn't actually expecting a trail up here, but that's good news. I got a little bit of a trail the rest of the way. That low point on the ridge ahead is where I'm headed. That's Warbonnet Pass. Well, I finally made it to the top. It's Barren Lakes down below to the right. And on this side to the left we have Warbonnet Lakes. Okay, I think this has got to be up there with one of the coolest ridge lines I've ever walked. Bam! Barren Lakes. Well, there is a bit of a little use trail going down here from Warbonnet Pass down to the lakes, but man, is it steep, and I'm really glad I'm going down. It's like the kind that just slides under your feet. So there were a couple other hikers up on Warbonnet Pass, and I was talking to them about my plans to go up over Packrat Pass tomorrow, and so far nobody I've talked to has even heard of it, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign, but I'm doing it. Well, I pretty much lost any sign of the trail at this point, so I'm just going to keep heading down this valley. So these are the Feather Lakes. It's a chain of, I think, 4 lakes, and so far they are just gorgeous. It's really, really nice, like turquoise kind of green water, and I've heard they're decent for fishing. Wow, I gotta say, I'm just thoroughly impressed with the Sawtooths all around so far. I mean, every day has just been just unbelievably gorgeous. I was not expecting this caliber of scenery out here. So this is Upper Bead Lake, and that's Warbonnet Peak up on the right. And at this point, I'm just looking for a place to camp. Well, this is Lower Bead Lake, and I did find a decent place to set up my hammock on the south shore, and what a great place to camp. I mean, just beautiful. I spent the afternoon fishing, and I caught 40 trout. I basically stopped counting. They're just biting anything I threw in the water, so tonight I'm eating a nice solid fish dinner. Well, it's morning day 6 now, and it's quite a different scene out here today. Out of nowhere, there's just been this really, really heavy haze, like forest fire smoke or something. I don't really smell it, but it appears to be forest fire smoke to me, rolling in from the west somewhere. It's pretty common at this time of the year. So today I'm headed over to Packrat Lake, so that's got me going roughly southwest from Bead Lakes to Blue Rock Lake, McWillard's Lake, Oriamnos Lake, and then from there the route cuts southeast over to Packrat Lake. Following this stream downhill was really treacherous. I slipped a few times, and it was just quite a bit tougher than it looked. And that's Blue Rock Lake down there. It's kind of a bummer we got all this forest fire smoke today. It just doesn't really bode that well for photography. now I'm working my way over to McWillard's Lake, and it's just all talus and boulder on these pretty steep slopes. Slow going, pretty treacherous. I already fell earlier and cut my hand. Had to wrap it up in my little towel. So this is McWillard's Lake. Really haven't heard much about it online. There doesn't really appear to be anywhere to camp. Not that there's been any kind of trails in this area anyway, but there's really no like clearing or anything. It's pretty thick all the way around the lake, and there's just a ton of bugs. Well, this is Oriamno's Lake. Pretty weird name. But I'm going to take lunch here. So now I've got to follow this drainage, which is pretty thick, about 500 feet uphill, and I'll be at Packrat Lake, which is where I plan on camping tonight. Nothing's been easy here on this hike, but this has actually been probably the easiest part of today's hike, believe it or not. So this is Packrat Lake. So far, I haven't seen any signs of campsites or anything up here. I just had a chance to explore the outlet area a little bit. So I'm going to work my way down the west side of the lake and check out the south side, the upper part of the lake, and see if I see any campsites up there. That's where I'm headed anyway. Tomorrow I'm going to go up above the lake over Packrat Pass. That's the plan anyway. So after quite a bit of searching, I found 2 trees in a really great spot actually to set up my hammock with a just awesome view of Packrat Lake. And with the threat of rain coming, yeah, I'm setting up my tarp today. Well, now it's time to do a little bit of fishing. So I fished for about an hour and caught 9. 3 of them were big enough to keep, so I put them on the stringer, and I'm gonna save them for dinner tonight. Morning day 7, and it's time to head up over Packrat Pass. This is kind of sort of the crux of the trip, I believe. I just didn't find a whole lot of information on this pass. Looked really, really steep on the map, so really hoping it works out. If not, I don't have a whole lot of options to back out of here and go a different route, really. So now I've got about a 1,000-foot climb just through talus and boulders. So that's going to be pretty slow going. I've done a lot of this kind of hiking before on boulder fields like this, off trail, and let me tell you, it just does not get any easier. I mean, it's hard work. There's just no way around it. Past the big boulders now, and it looks like just smaller stuff. There's maybe a faint use trail here at best, which is honestly more than I was even expecting. This is it. This is Packrat Pass. Man, that was a steep climb. Like every step you take, you just slide back like another step or two. Definitely don't want to do that again anytime soon. Man, it is just so cool up here. This has got to be some of my favorite views of the entire trip. That's Packrat Lake down there where I was camping last night. That's Reward Peak right there. Look at those sawtooths. east now. I'm going to skid around this hillside and drop down to Lake Catherine. Lake Catherine down there. I'm going to drop down to the lake, work my way around the right side, and then up and over that ridge on the right. Well, the route down the lake is a lot sketchier than I thought it was going to be by looking at the maps, but I'm here, and what can you do? You just got to go with it. So Lake Catherine is an off-trail lake, but it actually does get a little bit of traffic from what I hear, and I guess people access it by coming up Redfish Lake Creek and then up to the upper Redfish Lakes. Wow, these are some pretty little lakes. Nowhere to camp for Hammock, but maybe a tent site could work. So what I'm trying to do now is get to a place called Hanging Valley, which is west of the Cramer Lakes area. It's kind of like high up in this little basin. And from here, I've got to kind of skirt this mountainside that's east of Elk Peak. And right now I'm just working my way through one of the worst boulder fields I think I've ever faced. Well, I'm going to call this section the boulder field of death. I stepped on this one boulder larger than myself, and it moved on me, and I fell off. I fell against this other boulder. The one I fell off of had moved and tilted towards me, and thankfully it stopped moving because it could have fallen on me or at least my leg and just crushed my leg in the position I was in. It's scary. I mean, I'm out here by myself. I've got no Garmin InReach or spot locator or anything like that, so if I get hurt, I'm pretty much screwed. Well, I'm through the worst of it now, and I can finally see a way down to the valley below. Just a couple hundred more feet and I'll be down. Man, it is such a good feeling to be off that boulder field. It's so stressful just to, have to think about every single step. Anyways, it's time for a break, a well-deserved break. It'd be a lot nicer though without all these mosquitoes, but I just haven't been able to avoid them this whole trip. They've been pretty thick everywhere. So I'm directly east of Elk Peak now, and I've just crossed over Upper Redfish Lake Creek. And basically you just kind of got to skirt around this little hillside, go up this little ravine up to a saddle, and then I'll drop down to Hanging Lakes here in another couple of miles. Well, I reached the top of the little saddle I was trying to reach. It's about a 500-foot climb above the Upper Redfish Lakes Creek. I don't know why I always have trouble saying that one. Anyway, so now I'm dropping down to Hanging Valley. So this is Hanging Valley, and wouldn't you know it, I found a place to hang my hammock. So I'm going to hammock hang in Hanging Valley. Pretty fitting. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. I know it's pretty cheesy, but hey, come on. Just gotta check and see if anyone's actually watching this. Past there in the upper left is where I'm headed tomorrow. It's morning day 8, and I was planning on 9 days, but I'm 17 miles away from Pettit Lake now, and I think I'm just going to head back, and that way I have another day to just kind of explore the Boise area before I fly back home. There's definitely been a lot of signs of deer up here in this area. I saw one earlier this morning, which is actually only the second one I saw this whole trip. So that peak right there doesn't have a name, it's an unnamed peak. The pass I'm going over doesn't have a name. There's really very little on the map in this area that is even named. So now I gotta head down this valley about 1.5 miles, and I'm gonna meet up with the trail that runs along Hidden Lakes where I was at on my day 3. Well, this is pretty neat. You got this river just running under this snow bridge. Well, that's Hidden Lake, the lake I passed on day 3, so I should be able to walk a series of well-beaten trails all the way back to the trailhead. This is Virginia Lake and Edna Lake, which I passed on day 3, but instead of going up to Vernon Lake, I'm going to head east from here up over the pass that heads to Edith Lake, which is called Sand Mountain Pass, down to Toxaway Lake, and then back to the Pettit Lake trailhead where I started. This is Sand Mountain Pass. It's actually kind of confusing. There's trails running in like 4 different directions here. Well, it's basically all downhill from here all the way down to the trailhead, so I've got a couple more hours to go. This is Edith Lake. This is where I probably would have ended up camping tonight if I was going to make this a 9-day trip. Well, I'm just glad that water wasn't any deeper than it was. Well, I'm almost back at the trailhead now. It's been a long 8 days, really beautiful, really tough, but honestly one of the best hikes I think I've ever done. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Do me a favor, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next adventure.